I was tempted by an email about a job that looked like it wouldn't kill me. I just needed to investigate a motel. All sorts of supernatural motels showed up on empty roads of almost abandoned towns. There must be a few thousand different types of these buildings. Some were creatures disguised as somewhere to rest. I only knew details about the basic ones. A pop-up motel, for the most part, isn't overly harmful, meanwhile a haunted hotel can be very dangerous. A mixture of safe and life-threatening is a bugged motel. I just needed to gather details about an out-of-place building in the middle of nowhere. What could go wrong? Knowing my luck, a lot of things. I arrived at the location where the motel had last been seen. These types of buildings don't show themselves to just anyone. Luckily enough, I was the type of person it wanted, or didn't feel threatened by. The outside looked more like a decent hotel than a U-shaped motel. The nicer the place, the more danger that waited inside. I took a deep breath and walked through the glass doors, unaware of what would greet me. To my surprise, it appeared normal as an unnamed hotel showing up overnight in a rundown neighborhood could be. A man dressed in a professional suit jacket waited behind the check-in desk. His dark eyes watched me as I carefully walked over. His friendly smile did nothing to comfort me. For some odd reason, he reminded me of August. They didn't look related, it was just how they both smiled and their facial structure formed their face. Because of that one hint, I already knew what I was dealing with. My palms became sweaty as I tried to look calm. I stopped in front of the desk, hoping I could get out of this place safe and sound in the next few minutes. "What can I do for you today?" the man chirped. His smile grew wider, and it made every hair on my arm stand on end. I only had one chance. "I'd like to book a room for next Monday, if possible," I said, keeping my voice steady. The man nodded and reached for a book to write down the information. There were no computers or cameras in the lobby, but I knew I was still being watched. I glanced away long enough to spot a cockroach nestled in the corner near the ceiling. I focused my attention back on the clerk and gave him my contact information. I was almost in the clear. Once I left, I would pass along what I learned to the corporation. They would decide if this place was dangerous enough to assign an agent to deal with. I could cancel my booking, but I wasn't aware of what the cancellation fee would be. Whatever it was, it'd be better than actually staying in a place like this. After a few tense moments, the clerk finished my booking and I let myself exhale, knowing I was free to leave. Before I took a step away, someone came literally crashing through the door, guns drawn. A few bullets hit the clerk, his false face blowing apart at the edges, showing parts of what he really was. "I'm here to exterminate all you fucking bugs," a voice shouted out into the lobby. I stared in sheer shock at the stupidity of the person who just arrived. He wore a long black duster with his hair wild. Countless charms and necklaces dangled from his neck, and he stood tall because of a pair of platform boots covered in belts. He must still be a teenager if he thought those boots for fighting monsters were acceptable. The clerk smiled away, not noticing a few new holes in his face. "Would you like to check in, sir?" the clerk asked. I couldn't stop the kid in time. I opened my mouth to speak, but he instantly responded. "Fuck yeah, I do. That way I can't." I watched as a swarm of insects flooded out from each side of the lobby. They went around me, heading straight to the newcomer. He screamed and shot wildly, trying to get away. He didn't stand a chance. "We'll see you to your room, and we'll see you on Monday," the clerk said, his voice not able to hide the joy of nabbing a new victim. I felt the floor move under my foot. I was rudely tossed out, the doors slamming behind me. The windows in the hotel became dark as a close sign appeared in the window. No matter how hard I pushed or pulled, the doors weren't opening. This was not good. That kid had at most a few hours before the hotel claimed him. This was easy to tell. This place was a bugged hotel. It was just as it sounded like. A supernatural hotel run by insect monsters that pretend to be human. Since they didn't eat the kid when he first checked in, then I knew they would keep him alive but slowly drain his life away. I rushed off and somehow got a meeting with someone I'd spoken with before. Klaus met me outside of the interview room ready to hear my story. He handed me a water bottle, noticing how haggard I was from running around finding the right damn magic key that would bring me to the corporation office.
It sounds like you met a new hunter. They often take in whoever applies. They give them weapons, but no real training. People like this die quickly, but to their credit, may take a monster down, or two with them.
Klaus said after I told him the short story. Clearly, this kid was a dumbass trying to look cool. We need to get him out of there like 10 minutes ago. I pushed. Klaus made an expression I didn't like. He straightened his posture, ready to ask questions I didn't want to hear.
Did you encounter any of the humans in danger?
Well, no, I didn't, but...
Your job was to collect information. Our job is to keep the balance between supernatural creatures and humans. We do not kill every monster we come across.
Yes, I know that, I argued, but he went on.
As distasteful as it sounds, the corporation allows certain creatures to hunt humans to live. Each creature has a different victim limit. From the sounds of it, this hotel has only taken one human that picked a fight. I'll submit what you've told me, but you may need to accept the fact that this hotel's activities have been approved by us, but we were just not certain where it had moved to.
Are you saying we should just leave him to die? Klaus took a minute to try and collect his words. I knew he had most likely dealt with a situation like this before. His hands were tied when it came to how the corporation dealt with certain supernatural creatures. I knew it was only fair of them to protect monsters as much as they did humans. I still didn't agree with certain decisions.
If this is deemed to be a priority, then we'll send an agent out. Your job is done here. You're able to carry on with the rest of your day.
Instead of being angry over what he said, I nodded. He said I could leave and do anything I wanted today. That included saving a stupid young hunter that got himself into a huge mess. I left the office behind knowing I wasn't going to get any help from them. Instead, I called an old friend. She owed me a favor. Not a big enough favor for her to rush into such a dangerous place. I may need to pay her a little extra for this. She met me in front of the hotel, face bright and ready to help. Harp was taller than me. Her well-built body could barely be contained in her simple clothing. Now that I was in front of her again, I knew why I had stayed away for so long. I got weird when she spoke to me. I suddenly understood Joey's interests a little bit more. I shook off those emotions to get down to what we needed to do. It's good to see you back on your feet, little man, Harp said as she crossed her arms over her chest. She had cream colour hair that she always kept tied back for jobs. Her ears were slightly pointed and her nose was flat. I've never figured out what sort of creature she was. The only thing I knew for certain was that she could snap me like a twig with her massive arms. Not fully on my feet, but it's good to see you. Thank you for helping me with this, I quickly said and started forward, hoping she would follow. She did not. I turned back, my stomach rolling with different emotions. You know what my price is. What I owe you is not enough for this, Harp said, eyes gleaming. I let out a deep sigh, feeling my face go slightly red. Not in front of people this time, alright? Now let's go. I wished she would stop teasing me as much as she did. This time she followed. Her long strides soon overtook my pace. She entered the hotel, the close sign now gone. I felt a million unseen eyes on us when we entered the lobby. She stopped a few steps away from the front desk. The dark-eyed clerk smiled at us. His smile appeared strained when he saw me again. Booking a room for tonight? He offered in a less polite tone than he used with me earlier. Nope, coming to pick up a friend. You wouldn't happen to know what room he's in, would you? Harp said, sharp teeth coming into view. The clerk matched her expression. I'm afraid we can't give out that information, he half hissed. Then I'll just have to beat it out of you. She quickly moved, fists ready. The clerk let out a cackle, finding the idea of a fight amusing. His face split open as long spider-like legs spilled out from the flesh. Countless insects started to pour from the cracks in his skin. That was my cue to leave. Harp crashed into the desk so hard it sent pieces flying in all directions. She hadn't been hurt in the slightest. Another powerful blow came down on the mess of insects the clerk had turned into. My skin crawled hearing the loud crushing sounds of bugs under her fingers. I was already running down the hallway when swarms of more dark bugs came for me. I kept them away with a blast of spray I'd bought before I arrived. Even supernatural bugs hated regular bug spray. It wouldn't last forever though. My heart raced from fear and effort. I forced myself to look around, tracing the magic inside the building. It gave me a headache right away. This place looked like a building, but it was alive. I saw veins of magic pumping through the walls. I thought my head would burst before I saw anything useful. Then I spotted a mass of small flickering lights in a room 3 floors above me. I stopped, focusing. My eyes hurt as much as my head. That kid was inside the room with all the other bugs gathered nibbling on his energy. I shook my head to clear my vision. I now knew where he was and just needed to get through a few million bugs to find him. A black mass moving like water charged down the hallway in my direction. Thankfully, Harp came crashing through. Her body turned into a massive furred beast that wrecked everything her claws touched. She took out half of the swarm. I still had way too many bugs to take care of. I forced myself to keep moving. I heard the chittering of the swarm hot on my heels. Before I arrived, I stocked up on a few things. A can of bug spray and a lighter could easily be turned into a small explosive if you handled them correctly. The small bomb was tossed in the middle of the mass, but it barely made a dent. I didn't slow down when I hit the stairway door. It had been locked, but I crashed into the door so hard it dislocated my shoulder. It hurt like hell, but at least it broke the door open. Small bugs flew around hitting my face as I kept running up the stairs. I swatted them away just enough to see where I was going. The room I needed was so damn close. Luckily, the next door wasn't locked. I opened it to the next floor. My racing heart nearly stopped when I saw countless insects the size of small dogs waiting in the hallway. I swore, knowing I didn't have a good way to deal with them. A few charged at me, which I kicked out of the way. They tore at my pants legs, some biting into the flesh. They soon backed off after getting a small mouthful. I guess I didn't taste very good. My mind raced through ideas coming up empty. Just as I thought I was done for, the ceiling caved in. A smaller person came down with a cackling laugh. They darted around on all fours, killing a handful of bugs. When the figure stopped to rip one apart with their teeth, I could get a good look at them. "April?" I shouted, shocked seeing her here. "You!" She yelled back and pointed in my direction. "I'm your friend, and you don't call me for help? I'll talk to you about this after." I nodded and let her focus her attention on the small army in front of us. Our enemies must have realized she was stronger than them. They all turned to leave, but didn't get very far. April shrieked in delight every time she crushed one under her feet. I left her on her rampage and forced myself inside the room the kid was being held inside. I found him on a bed covered in easy-to-deal-with bugs. They were as weak as normal cockroach. It took me a few minutes to empty my last few cans of spray into the mass. My skin crawled as I swatted them away, hating the sensation of them running up my arms. I got most of them off, then lifted the kid into my arms. I realized he would be too heavy to carry around for too long. I've been out of the game for a while and my strength wasn't what it had been before. I set him back down and pressed my palms against the floor. I haven't done this trick very often and I just hoped it worked. The building we were inside was powerful. I bet it held more magic than August, April, and Harp combined. But it didn't have the kind of awareness or intelligence. I carefully started to take a little bit of magic into my arms. I held my breath during the process, making certain I stole power in a way the building wouldn't notice. Like a flea draining blood. If it got itchy, it would be all over. Since Harp and April were causing problems, my actions weren't noticed. I gathered up enough power and let it inside my arms. I had about 10 minutes of being able to lift things twice as heavy as myself without my muscles getting tired. When it comes to magic, you can do almost anything with it. The most complicated requests require more focus and power. Becoming strong enough to carry a person without issues was something so simple I bet more humans could do it if they were aware of how magic worked. Most of the larger bugs had been chased away by April. A few were still in the hallway, which I took out with a few well-placed kicks. I almost felt sorry for the things, even if they would be glad to eat me on the spot. I started down the stairs again, but ended up tripping over the kid's damn jacket. We tumbled downwards, my shoulder reeling hot from pain. I ignored it. The kid didn't wake up, but I bet he got a few bumps from the fall. At least he wasn't dead, so he should be thankful. I thought I was in the clear when I didn't see any threats until I hit the entrance of the lobby. The building had been torn up from the fight between Harp and the clerk. I heard rumblings from them exchanging blows. I took a step towards the door, but my path was cut off by the ceiling caving in once again. Both April and Harp came with a creature with an appearance that would haunt my dreams for a while. The body looked like a long millipede but with long spider legs. It had transparent wings that had been damaged. The head was made up of different types of insect faces and human skulls fused together. A human face that looked like the clerk sat in the middle, an appearance of disgust directed towards us. "Do you think you can win?" I asked the girls. Both had torn clothing and slowly healing wounds. Harp gave a strained smile and April stayed on all fours, a deep rumbling coming from her chest. "No, but we would do a lot of property damage before he took us all out," Harp admitted. That was it. We were dead. Or at least, we should have died there. "No, you shall not," the monster snapped. "I'm cancelling your rooms. Get out." An invisible force took us all by the ankles. One after another, we were all tossed out the front door. I was almost crushed by Harp when she was tossed out last. I rolled over at just the right time. I sat up dazed to see the building shaking. It started to sink into the ground, the entire thing leaving to take up a different spot to lure in victims. Somehow, April snagged a large bug on the way out. She held on to it as I shook off any that had hitched a ride on my clothing. "How dare you not call me to help?" April snapped. "You're a kid, the place was dangerous," I reminded her. "I'm a menace," she corrected and then bit the head off her hijacked snack. "You sure are, baby girl," Harp complimented her. I wanted to tell Harp to not encourage her, but I knew it would be useless. I also had a weird feeling come over me as if I was jealous Harp called April baby girl, and not me. I shook that thought off, hating how I got around her. "Who's that?" April asked, her mouth full. She pointed at the guy we risked our lives to rescue. She didn't even know why we had almost died. She just wanted to fight. I didn't think I could ever understand supernatural creatures. I couldn't answer her because someone else had just arrived.
"Now what happened here?"
Klaus stood, arms crossed, with a younger agent in tow. The agent wasted no time going over to the hunter to see if he was alive. "Well," I started. I didn't have a lie out of this.
"Do you know what you just did? Now we need to find the location of the bugged hotel all over again. You risked your life, and 2 others, when you should have just waited."
His voice was stern, so it made me shrink back a little. He let out a sharp inhale of air. When the other agent wasn't looking, Klaus gave me a wink. Damn, this guy was good at acting. He needed to give me a hard time because that was his job, but he was secretly glad I saved an inexperienced hunter from the hotel.
"We'll take him to get treatment. Does anyone else need to go to the clinic?"
he offered. I shook my head and popped my shoulder back in because I hadn't had a chance yet. Klaus let his eye twitch from the sound, but he didn't say anything. Both girls shook their heads.
"April, please come with me. We have a job for you, if you're up to it."
She let out a long groan, sounding like a teenager who had just been asked to clean a room. "I hate picking plants. They're only undead in that swamp. They're so easy to kill and they don't taste good at all." She pouted, but still followed behind the agents. Harp had nothing else to do, so she offered to go with April. Not before she claimed her price of doing this job for me. She grabbed hold of my face to give my cheek a hard kiss that felt like it bruised. I protested, reminding her our deal was for her not to do that in front of people. Her answer was to do it 3 more times. I let them leave, rubbing my sore cheek. I honestly like Harp. I liked her a lot. She was well aware of that fact, however, understood a relationship would never work out between us. She wanted different things in life, mostly a strong partner and a family. I could barely take care of myself, let alone kids. When we saw each other, we would show our mutual affection, but nothing more. I went home that day wondering if I had done the right thing. Would that hotel take more victims before the corporation was able to find it again? Had saving one person caused the death of others? Even if it did, I knew I wouldn't be able to live with myself if I let that kid die today. I did one more shake to make certain I didn't have any more bugs still on me before entering my apartment building. Creating a cockroach infestation was the last thing I wanted from this day.